Hello, hello, hello. Ohayo gozaimasu. Welcome to today's Naruse a Day review. And today I'm going to look at a film that is in many ways representative of Naruse's late period, his work in the 1950s and shortly thereafter. He died in 1969, made his final film the year before. And his approach to themes, to narrative, his style are all in many ways neatly encapsulated by the wonderfully poetically titled Last Chrysanthemums. This is a film that concerns aging geisha, or more properly ex-geisha. There are three protagonists, all of whom used to be geisha together, we gather before the war, and now in the early 1950s have all hit in different ways and to different ends hard times. These geisha are Okin, Tomi and Tamae. Okin, played by Ozu regular Sugimura Haruko, is the central focus of the film. She's the figure around whom the other characters seem to orbit, and whose story propels the action of the film, as it were. Tomi and Tamae are contrasted very closely with each other and with Okin. Okin is in some ways a fairly embittered character. She recalls previous hardships as a means of cementing to herself and justifying to herself the correctness of her contemporary actions. She's in the midst of buying a plot of land to build on. She makes, although she says she does not, what seems to be decent money lending out funds to what again appears, without being explicitly stated, as a wide client base. Both Tomi and Tamae have borrowed money from her and are both struggling very much financially, and thus both are reluctant, unable or unwilling to pay her back. They seem to begrudge Okin her reasonable, or certainly comparative, financial security, and don't come forward favourably with repayments on the money that they borrowed. These two characters, Tomi and Tamae, both have a child in their early 20s, one a daughter, the other a son, both of whom are about to leave their mothers to start new lives elsewhere. And Okin, by way of contrast, is about to, at least we infer she hopes, have she's childless, but she is hoping to have an addition to her household. She has a deaf-mute helper, a sort of maid, but she has made contact with a man who she had a relationship with before the war, who was a patron of hers when she was a geisha, and he is coming back into her life. And the way that she prepares for this, looks forward to this, suggests that she hopes there could be a rekindling of old romantic feelings. She is also plagued by an unwanted presence from her past, someone who once tried to kill her. I think on his part, he believes that there should have been a kind of suicide pact, a double suicide pact between them. and he tried to kill Okin. He has been in prison, and he comes out of prison and seeks out Okin to ask for money. Typically for Naruse, money is the be all and the end all. Characters have it and characters covet it, and the want of money is something that drives variously the actions and attitudes of most of the protagonists of this film. In lieu of money, the female characters, again, as is typical in many later Naruse films, have to learn to reconcile their lives with their various wants and needs, and the ways that they, particularly Tommy and Tamae, begin to envisage a way forward after their respective children have, to their mind, deserted them, even though they don't really bear them any deep ill will. Indeed, both are quite practical and resigned to losing their children, and do not really blame them. They talk about how their own lives have led to them in various ways failing their children, but the way they reconcile themselves to moving forward in a very emblematic modern scene towards the end that employs humour when both of these women try to copy a young modern girl who, according to one, has the Monroe walk, the Marilyn Monroe walk, referring obviously to the American film star, the Hollywood film star, and her distinctive gait, shows how culture is deeply embedded in the modern Tokyo of the film's present day setting, and how it can offer women, aging women like Tommy and Tamae, something of a way of reconciling their identities as women whose best years are behind them, whose successes and failures are tied up in the past, and who are just eking out an existence. How culture can, in some ways, offer them at least a palliative, if you like. For her part, Okin seems to represent a slightly different model. She is more financially stable, but as Catherine Russell notes, there has been a cost to this. She talks about the extent to which Catherine Russell talks about the extent to which Okin's sexuality has had to be repressed, and the meeting with the former patron stroke lover, with whom she perhaps hopes to rekindle an old romance, but which goes immediately sour, suggests the extent to which she has had to suppress her sexuality, even her femininity, in order to make way in modern Tokyo. It's almost as though she has had to become, in some ways, anathema to a woman, to a kind of workable female subject in order to make her way. She has had to suppress or subsume beneath a hard exterior any real emotion, any real desire, and this has allowed her to, in effect, kind of usurp a male role as a business person. So there is here a very penetrating contrast between Okin and Tommy and Tamae. The latter two have recourse to popular culture and to their bodies still. Both are single, but both talk about finding partners, and They are more in touch with their sort of corporeal selves, if you like. This is slightly comedically highlighted in a series of scenes where the characters are looking at their appearances, where they are sneezing, sniffling. There's a certain slightly ribald humour to the way that Naruse and his screenwriters depicts the sort of bodily realities of these characters, as opposed to Okin, who in a contrastive scene is actually shown looking in the mirror. She is preparing herself when her old patron comes round to pay her the expected visit. She repairs to her room, the only time we see this bedroom, and she looks in the mirror to make herself up. But even this feels like a recourse to her old days as a geisha. It feels like she is not necessarily reconciling herself to her aging body or her aging desires as a woman, and more trying to reclaim in some part her sort of lost past as a performer, as an artist. These are very detailed character studies we get in this film. Again, very typical for Naruse, and this is a film that bears repeated viewing. It is the sort of base note is one of melancholy. Indeed, the film has a kind of charcoal grey look to it, almost as though it's been sort of washed out. The world we see has been drained, if you like. But it is one with, as I've noted, moments of humour, moments of a touching kind of intimacy, where, albeit there are no real meaningful, harmonious relationships, nonetheless, the way that characters practically regard those around them and themselves in relation to those around them is very realistic. It's very detailed, and it betrays no sentimentality and no easy solutions to any problems. So, all told, I heartily recommend that you seek out this deceptively complex, moving film. Consider, as you watch it, the resonance of the title, Late Chrysanthemums. Not the only Japanese film to feature this particular flower in its title. It is joined by Mizoguchi Kenji's The Story of the Last Chrysanthemums. And the chrysanthemum is regarded by some, because of its connection to the emperor and to the imperial line, as the national flower or the national symbol of Japan. It's something that appears a lot in different Japanese art forms. It has all kinds of resonances. There's an official chrysanthemum festival, I believe, in September. So it has all kinds of meanings in Japan and Japanese culture. So this is certainly not an accidental or sort of emptily poetic title. So seek the film out. Let me know what you think. Like and comment and subscribe, or do not. Follow me on X at AdamBingham01, and stay tuned for more in the very near future.